Are you a fourth year medical student or somebody that has recently graduated medical school and is in the process of transitioning to residency? Or are you a brand new intern that is yet to take any action on your student loans? If so, there is one step, one thing that you can do today that takes less than 10 minutes of your time. And if you do that one thing, it could allow you to save over $300 per month. That's $300 per month on your student loan payments. This one thing will take you from an average student loan borrower to an elite student loan borrower. And if you want to learn more about this step, you, in addition to some other strategies, you can log into the description section of this video, where I've included a copy to my ebook that walks you through the 3 things that you need to do to master your student loan repayment when you leave medical school. But first, let's talk about the process of paying back your student loans. So you took out a bunch of student loans. If you don't have student loans, you're probably on the wrong video. And now you have to repay them. So you start by going to school, then you go to medical school and you might have loans from each. And then you finish medical school and you have this huge burden that you have to pay back. And now we have to figure out how we're going to manage those payments. And let me tell you, if you do nothing, you're going to be in for a rude awakening, because you are going to be slapped in the face with a huge student loan payment about 6 months from now, or I guess 6 months from when you finish training. And that huge payment is not going to be a pleasant surprise for you. So one opportunity that you have is to go from that huge student loan payment all the way down to a much more manageable payment, and sometimes even a $0 student loan payment, depending on your family and your student loan circumstances. So what do I mean by that? Is one term that you may have heard of is a income-driven repayment plan. So that big plan, that huge payment, that's a standard 10-year repayment plan. And think of it like paying back a mortgage in 10 years. It uses your student loan balance and your interest rate. And that will give you this huge payment. But on the flip side, you have the opportunity to enroll in a income-driven repayment plan. And unlike that plan that allows you to calculate your payment with your student loan balance and your interest rate, a income-driven repayment plan uses only 2 things. The first is your income, and the second is your family size. So just in short, the higher your income is, the higher your student loan payment is going to be. And the lower your income is, the lower your student loan payment is going to be. So what can we control? We have the opportunity when we leave training to control our income. For most of you in medical school, if you are single, or if you are married and as a household, you didn't earn a ton of income, it's likely that you have a very low income that you could use when enrolling in an income-driven repayment plan. So a lot of you probably have $0 in medical school, right? In 2024, that's the second half of your 3rd year of medical school. And if you're like most, probably have $0 income there. And then the second half of 2024 is the first half of your M4 year. So if you blend that together, you have $0 that should be able to be used when enrolling in an income-driven repayment plan. The issue is when you go through the IDR application, you have to go and report and prove the income that you earned. So even though you earned $0, there is no way to prove that you earned no dollars when you enroll in the IDR plan. So normally what the average student loan borrower has to do is when they enroll in this income-driven repayment plan and they have to show proof of income, because there's no records that say they had a $0 student loan payment, they have to use their first pay stub. And what that does is it extrapolates out that pay stub into what you would earn over a 12-month period of time. So if you are like the average student loan borrower who will make about $60,000, maybe $70,000, maybe $50,000, depending on your residency program, it's likely that your first income-driven repayment plan will be about $300 per month. So if you are on new income-based repayment, again, a lot of terms throwing around, but if you are on new IBR and had $60,000 salary, by showing your pay stub as a proof of what you earn or what your income is, your student loan payment would be about $300 per month. So, Michael, you said I could save $300 per month. Why, if I'm going through the IDR application and I have to show this pay stub and it's $300 per month, that's nothing exciting. So I say yes. So now we're going to talk through the step that you can take so that when you enroll in that income-driven repayment plan, we can show proof that you earned $0 last year in 2024. So that one step is to e-file a 2024 tax return reporting the $0 income that most of you earned in training. And we're going to walk through that right now, step by step, of how simple it is in less than 10 minutes of your time to e-file a 2024 tax return. But before we get any further, I just want to do a mini disclaimer. This is not tax advice. This isn't necessarily student loan advice per se, because your specific situation might not dictate you do this strategy. This is for the average student loan borrower, somebody single, somebody without a lot of income. And the idea of filing the tax return is just that. It is to be used so that when we enroll in the income-driven repayment plan, it documents $0 of income. We're not using this tax return to, try to defraud, or I guess fraud, to try to get money out of the government. So if you owed taxes in 2024, you have to pay taxes in 2024. This strategy is for somebody that didn't have any taxes that they needed to pay, and it's only supposed to be used to document your income in 2024. So now we're going to go and log on to a tax planning software. In this example, I'm going to use Free Tax USA. There's also TurboTax. There's some other tax softwares that will allow you to, execute this strategy. But I found it simplest to use Free Tax USA. So let's get into it. All right, we are now on Free Tax USA. It's going to be what I will use for our example. You could use TurboTax or another software, but I found Free Tax USA to be the most user-friendly. So to start, you're going to create an account. You'll create a username, a password, and then you are going to land on a page like we are on right now. It might look a little different. I used this last year for an example, and I've already started a mock return for this year, but yours will be somewhat similar. So before we get in and walk through the steps, I do want to take a step back, and you might be watching this video after April 15th of 2025. And why is that date significant? So April 15th, 2025 is the deadline that you have to report the income that you earned in 2024. And why am I even mentioning that is, every April 15th, you're required to file a tax return for the income you earned in the year prior. So for you guys didn't earn any income in 2024. This strategy is to report that you earned zero income in 2024. So because of that, you don't have that same April 15th, 2025 deadline. Instead, you can file this in May 15th, 2025, June, July. There is no requirement for you to even file this tax return because you didn't earn any income in the year prior. So why I bring that up is if you're watching this video a little later, or even if you've started training and yet to enroll in an income-driven repayment plan, this is still a strategy that you can take advantage of. So let's start. We're going to start a 2024 tax return and click the big blue button. And that is going to take us to a page called Tell Us About Ourselves. So this is going to be the section where we enter our just contact information. So first name, last name, if you have junior, senior, occupation is Dr. Planner, Dr. Financial Planner. You are going to have to enter your correct information here because this is going to link to your IRS records. So you're going to add your appropriate social security number and birthday. If you guys want to send me a thank you, happy birthday, May 22nd, 1989. So coming up, right? If you're watching this in May, it's coming up. So you'll add your address. City is virtual. Enter your state and zip code. So I'm just going to take one moment and talk about this question. Can a parent or somebody else claim you as a dependent on their tax return? So if you're older than 26, 25, 26, which most of you are, normally your parents might or shouldn't be able to claim you as a dependent, but they don't always know that when they're filing their taxes. So what oftentimes will happen is they'll just include you, and then they won't receive the credits when it comes to the reconciliation process of kind of the IRS return. And why I bring that up is this has been known to cause hiccups in the past. So if you get to the end and for some reason it gives you an error that says you're not able to process the tax return, it might be because you answered this question truthfully. Can a parent claim you as a tax return? Traditionally, they can't. But if they did, there might be a mismatch in the system preventing you from applying or submitting. So you might have to go back to your parents if you get an error and just say, hey, did you include me on your tax return? If they say yes, you'll answer truthfully. And they did actually claim you. And we knew that because of the error. So most of the time you wouldn't get an error, but just in case, I did want to spend a second talking through that question. The rest of them, you just answer truthfully. No, you don't want to give to a presidential fund, blind, etc. So we're going to click through and move on to the next section. So the next section is what's your filing status? So for most of you watching, you're probably going to be single. If you are married and your partner has income, you likely would have been required to file a tax return, so you can't use this strategy. If you're married and your partner didn't file, maybe it's two people in training, two people in medical school, or one person still in undergrad, or whatever the case might be, you would just answer this question truthfully if you weren't required to file a tax return. So in this case, we're just going to say we're single. Continuing on. The next section is, do you have any dependents? Again, if you were required to file a tax return, you would add the dependents on here, but we're using this for ourselves and reporting student loans. So, answer this truthfully, but a lot of you probably will not have dependents. So we'll continue through this. So we have just a quick personal information recap, and we'll continue through. Throughout, you're going to notice they're going to try to upsell you. We're just going to scroll down and continue through the upsell. And then this is the section that we are going to use so that we can report $0, or in this case, we're going to report $1 or a small amount of dollars. So traditionally, we are not allowed to file a $0 tax return. When we get to the end, it's likely that it will bounce, or what I've learned is they might require you to print it out and mail it in. And we don't want that. The easiest way to do it is through Free Tax USA and not having to go and mail it to the IRS. So why I bring that up is normally the easiest way to report income, even if we didn't earn any in the year prior, is going to be through our bank accounts. So if you have a checking account, or hopefully a savings account, there is a little bit of interest you probably earned in 2024. it might only be a couple pennies. It might only be a couple dollars. So for one of my accounts, there's an account I don't use. I earned 24 cents of interest last year. Another account, I had a couple $100 of interest. So I am going to use those savings accounts for this example, but you would have to go and log on to a savings account and just say, did I earn a little bit of interest last year? And that's what you're going to be using for this step. So we're going to continue to our income. If you happen to have W-2 income, maybe you worked for a university and have a little bit of W-2 income, even though you're not required to file the tax return because of the amount, you still could use, and the easiest way would be to use that W-2 income when completing this. But for most of you, if you didn't work last year, no, I don't have any W-2 income. So we'll click continue. All right, so the next step, we just did the wages and salary. That's that W-2 income. Next, we're going to go into our investments and savings section, and we're going to edit this. So how this is going to work is we are going to use this section to report that savings account interest, or checking account interest that we earned. So we're going to say the interest we're going to be looking for is this 1099 INT, but you can just go in and see if you earned any interest last year at your bank. So we're going to, did you enter any investment income? Nope. So we're going to continue. I lied. We're going to go back and add an investment. What investment? We're using interest, as I discussed. We're going to save and continue. This section, we're going to enter your bank. You're going to enter your bank, Ally, BMO Harris, Wells Fargo. You'll enter the institution where the account is. Hit save and continue. If you happen to receive, so a lot of times if you had over a certain amount of interest, your bank will give you documentation on a 1099 INT. If you have that, you can upload it, but the easiest way is to just enter it manually. So we're going to continue. So on the top, we have our payer, enter your bank. What was the interest we earned? So I'm just going to use my BMO account that had $24 cents of interest. I am going to round that up to $1, and that's all that's needed to push this through. So if you happen to earn $24, $500, you'll put in the actual interest you earned in the savings account or checking account in 2024. And you can log on to your bank and kind of see that on the history tab if you weren't given a 1099 INT. So we'll kind of scroll all the way down, save and continue. And that was it. This is the hardest step, and this is what's going to be used when we submit. And the rest of it is just answering it's going to go pretty quick now. And we're just going to answer the remaining questions. So do you own, again, remember, this is for reporting your income. This is not trying to get money back. So most of this, we're just going to save and continue through. All right, so we have our income. Here's a recap of what we did so far. We're going to continue through this. Did we do any cryptocurrency? That could be another way to report income if you don't have any savings accounts, but we're going to save and continue through this one. And this is our recap where we are today. We don't have to view it. We're going to continue through this page. Again, another upsell. We'll continue through that. And now they've got our income. Awesome. So there really is not much we have to do through the next couple steps. So I'm going to kind of fly through it. I'll point out anything that might pop up, but we're going to continue to deductions. Remember, we're not using this for reporting income. It's only for student loan payments. If you do owe taxes, you have to report your taxes, and then you can use these sections more so, but we don't have any of these deductions. All right, standard deductions best for us. We'll save and continue. Again, did you have any health insurance from the marketplace? Most likely not. We're going to save and continue. All right, any common deductions? Again, not using these sections, continue through it. And here's another recap. We're going to continue through this one. All right, you'll kind of get the trend. We're going to continue through this one. Another upsell, but you're going to start to realize it really is not going to take too much time for you to complete this. All right, so we're going to scroll all the way down and continue through this section. Again, we're not going for a refund, so we're going to skip and finish filing. We'll save and continue. The next section is going to ask for us to check for documents. We don't need to do anything with this section. Again, another recap section. We are going to continue through this. And up next is your state tax return. So this section is actually one that trips up a few people. So when we document our income, all that's needed is a federal tax return, and that's what's going to be used to report our income on an income-driven repayment plan. So because we're not using this to file our taxes, we actually get to skip over the state tax return section. If you say that you do want to also file a state tax return, when you get to the end, there might be an additional charge for you to do it. So instead of it being free for you to file, if there's a couple tens of dollars, $30, I don't remember the price, but if it's requiring you to make a payment when you get to the end, it's likely because you added a state tax return, which you don't have to do. So in that event, you can just go back to this section, remove the state tax return, and then continue forward as if you didn't even file it. And at that point, you should be able to submit a $0 tax return. So in this case, we're going to continue to the state tax return. We are not going to add a state tax return. We're going to continue through that. A couple last steps. Another upsell one last time. Again, notice how our total right now is $0. If there was a dollar amount in here, again, that's likely because you had the state tax return added. We are going to continue through here. We have our final step, send a phone number to the IRS. We'll keep that there, save and continue. And then I cannot file this because my social security number didn't match. I used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. I will not be able to submit this as an example, but this is the step where you will ultimately submit it and it will get sent to the IRS. At the same time, you will probably get kicked out a PDF copy of your tax return, and that will be what you can use when you enroll in an income-driven repayment plan. So this video is more than 10 minutes, but as you can see, the process takes less than 10 minutes. And now that we have this $0 tax return on file as documentation of income, now we have something that we can use to put onto our IDR plan. We get to take, instead of using that pay stub like we shared, that would be a $300 plus payment. Now we get to recalculate your student loan payment using $0 or $1, a couple dollars. But at the end of the day, that will allow you to go to $0 student loan payments your intern year. So again, this is a huge opportunity. This is step number 1 of 3 important steps that you can do to master your student loans. And if you want additional guidance, you can head over to the description and get a copy of my ebook. But it would mean the world if this video was helpful to smash a like. Consider following me. I'm going to be putting out more videos like this. If anything comes up and you have any questions, just throw them in the comments.